I had to say, okay, I'm okay with that. As opposed to, you can't do this anymore. You have to change to fit into my world.
Well, that's the difference between insecure and boundaries. Because here's the thing: a lot of men, they'll say, "No, I'm not being insecure. I'm just setting boundaries." But you are being insecure, because here's the difference between insecure and boundaries. It's a secure man will see what you have to offer, like read the menu and decide if he will stay or leave.
Exactly.
An insecure man will say, you need to do this, you need to do this, rather than just saying, you are who you are, I'm going to have to leave.
You're not right for me.
You're not right for me.
Why do we try to change people from who they are to fit our world?
Because we're too insecure to walk away.
Wow.
Yeah. When we develop the willingness to walk away, we actually love people for who they are. You know what? You're always out in the club all day, every day. You actually like that you're really lively and extrovert, but it doesn't work for me. But when I'm insecure, it's like, please be something else, because I can't walk away from this. I can't find anybody else. So I'm always holding them by the throat, begging them to be a better person, because I don't have the strength to know when to walk away.
Wow.
So that's when we force people.
I've been both of those in the past.
Yeah. And it's so much nicer when you can become the person that just says, it's okay, you be you.
We don't need to be together.
It's okay. And there's other humans in the world.
Exactly.
So you can keep it moving. And that's what the boundary is between secure and insecure, man or woman. Yeah, and waiting for them to change is just waiting for the divorce.
Hi guys. Now, one of the questions I get asked the most since I've been online is, what books do I recommend? Is there any books that I can read to help me understand like some of the things you talk about? What self-help books did you read to get here? Now, a fun fact about me is I suffer from very extreme ADHD. I am very much incapable of reading an entire book. I haven't read a book cover to cover since maybe I was 15 years old, unless it's for work, unless it's an academic reason that I need to read, I won't read. And but I really realized I'm missing out, right? Because there's so many amazing self-help books out there. There's so many great books for relationships. There's just so much information out there that you can't really capture without reading a book. And so I started looking online, and I found this incredible website called Shortform. And what Shortform does is takes all of your best-selling books from any genre, whether it is from like self-help, autobiographies, all types of topics, and it simply condenses it for you. So you can read an entire book or understand the entire gist of the book within 10 minutes or so. And I literally go on there, I download a few of the best books on there, and I read them while I'm on the plane, or I'll know when to save them, and I might skim over some of the really important details before I go onto a podcast. So for me, it's been a real time saver. It's been a real lifesaver because I've learned so much on it. And I really, really highly recommend that you go to www.shortform.com.
Will change in the future. Like, he's got so much potential. He's so great here and here. And I love his family so much. They've welcomed me in. But there's these 2 or 3 things that I just, maybe one day he'll change.
Yeah.
What typically happens in that relationship?
They've fallen in love with their imagination. And when reality strikes, and unfortunately reality strikes, at some point reality strikes when we fall in love with our imagination, which we're very capable of doing, particularly if we've been traumatized. One thing with traumatized people is that their imagination and reality can get blurred. When we fall in love with our imagination, unfortunately, life will keep testing you, and reality testing will keep occurring until you're forced to face the person they truly are. And it's usually kids or 10 years later or something like that. And then they'll say, they'll act like these, I didn't know he was like this. He came out of nowhere. How can he's like this? But really, they showed you who they were from day one. They always showed you. You fell in love with your imagination, and now you're angry that your imagination is not reality-based. So unfortunately, it doesn't end well. It's better to just accept the person for who they are, flaws and all, than to live in the illusion that they're going to change.
Before you marry and get committed at that level.
Absolutely.
What is... From the women that I've talked to who have been married and divorced, I always like to ask this question.
Yeah.
Did you know before you got married that it probably wasn't the right person? Like somewhere inside you knew, or maybe you actually knew, but you just were too far along and you went through with it, thinking you would change.
Yeah.
Probably 95% of them said, yes, I knew. I knew the day I got married. I knew the week before. I knew afterwards, but I tried to make it work anyways.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many women get married knowing it's the wrong man?
I think what happens is the biological pressure to become is something we can't escape. And I think no matter how many holidays we can kid ourselves with and how many career opportunities and how many alternatives, there's a biological thing that kicks in with women at late 20s even. It doesn't have to wait till people think it happens really late. It doesn't. It happens quite early on, that where they start to think that they need to know what the future will look like. To ease their anxiety, even if they're not going to have kids today, to ease their anxiety that they will become a mother, they just want to settle down. They just want to tick that box. And in the process of kind of submitting to the evolutionary pressures and societal pressures, they overlook the red flags. And sometimes it's not the man that's the issue. They knew themselves that they're not ready for marriage. They know themselves they're not very good at conflict, or they know themselves they're still attached to an ex. But the pressure to settle down that they apply on themselves and their body kind of causes them to walk down the aisle knowing what the result will be. So, do men have that too?
I don't ask men that question as much.
What I've found with men is they can sometimes know that they're not marrying the right person, but usually because these men, they tend to be okay with accepting the monotony of marriage. Those men that walk down the aisle knowing it's not the right person, they tend to be like, it's not the right person, but I'm okay with settling down, and I accept the bland reality of marriage. They've succumbed to it. But with women who know they will eventually go into ask for the divorce, men are happy to stay married, even if they're not madly in love or not madly happy, if they're that kind of guy.
Who files for divorce more, men or women?
Women, yeah. But
why is that?
A lot of the time it's a cry for help. There's been so many times where women say to me, it's like, oh, I told him I want a divorce, but hoping he'd come back for me, but he let me pack my bags. And so sometimes they file for divorce or take it that far as a way of testing their partner. And if they're with quite a healthy partner, they'll take your word as gospel, and they think you mean it.
Why do so many women try to test their men constantly?
It's an evolutionary thing. It's an evolutionary thing because here's the reality. We are designed to have children with men, and childbirth is potentially fatal. We die from childbirth if we were left in, our natural habitat. So to put that risk onto a relationship, he better be able to endure all types of storms. So we have to test them. So we have to, unfortunately, test them. We have to test, are they going to be faithful? Are they going to be financially stable? Are they going to be able to have their own boundaries? We push. Now, the problem is, unfortunately for men, is when we push you and you succumb to us, you automatically lose us. What we're saying when we're pushing you is really make sure you don't give in to this, because if you do, then I know you're not strong enough.
Oh my God, give me an example. What's a common example?
It might be something like I push a man to say, I'm going to come home when I want. I'm going to come home and do what I want with the girls, wherever I'm going to come on girls trips. I'm going to do whatever I want. Push you. And then when you actually give in and say, okay, essentially she feels like she's not being protected. So she feels like nobody's governing her.
You don't have a spine.
You're not responding. You're not responsible. Or she might say, "I'm talking to my ex-boyfriend," and you say, "I don't feel comfortable with that." She might, "No, you have to. I have to." Fine, he accepts it. Essentially, she's saying that you don't mind cuckoldry. You don't mind if I have an affair. Bye. So essentially, what we're begging for sometimes is the boundary, not the kind of. We're not looking for you to bow down.